Hello, and welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. Courtney Brain, Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization serving people who are navigating herpes stigma. And I'm finally getting around to recording episode 400. It's February 17th, 2026. And I've been promising this since December. Um, and I want to take accountability. Take accountability on saying I was going to do something and then not do it. Because I very much am the kind of person who I do what I say I'm going to do, and really there's no excuse. A lot of things have been happening. I have been really, really busy with in a good way, in a good way. Just for perspective, in 2025, we had 277 support call signups that I've tracked. And more than half of those came after July. And 2026 for January, we had 78 or 77 support call signups, and that was for the month of January. I want to say about 10 to 15% of people who sign up don't show up. I get a couple like troll people who take the time to fill out the support call form, and then I contact them and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I can only assume somebody probably signed up for them. They don't know anything about it, but it is what it is. And for the month of February, roughly 40 people have signed up for support calls. And that just speaks to one avenue of how busy I've been. I'm also in yoga therapy training, almost done. I have two more class modules to complete, and then I have a 50-hour project that I have to kind of create on my own. And I'm thinking of putting something together for how I've been using yoga therapy with clients to support them through herpes stigma. In addition to that, I still work part-time teaching the genital exams. I'm a male neurological teaching associate for different schools across the city, New York City-ish. I don't want to say the state, because like anything I can't get to within 3 hours, I don't know if I ain't got it in me to do any travel beyond that. But yeah, in addition to that, I've been dating, and I came to some hard realizations very recently. That I'll talk about that in this podcast episode. In addition to that, I'm a W-2 employee of Something Positive for Positive People, which I should have been over the last 9 years, but timing is everything. And now I'm officially registered in the state of New York. They took the money from the check that I had to write to fill out the registration paperwork. So a lot of what I've been doing is taking the time that I would say about 5 hours a week is what goes into the podcast. If you go and factor in not just the recording and editing, but if I'm doing it with a guest, I have to do outreach. I got to make sure that they're on the same page. I got to also make sure to create marketing materials to make it worth their time, to website and whatever social media platforms, and then uploading. I don't edit. I should, but editing typically, in my experience, for every 15 minutes of content, there's about an hour of editing that had gone into that at the time. But it's just me. So I think that I'm able to save a lot of the time. But with that 5 hours a week, I've been able to do a lot of admin stuff. I've been able to go back and backtrack and revise things on the website, which I think has really contributed to the momentum we've been building in terms of having people finding the website. There have been a lot of people who have found Something Positive for Positive People immediately after their diagnosis. So within days, even leaving the doctor's office, reaching out, saying, hey, hello, the results are coming. And my doctor told me to look for a support group. And that's another thing I've been able to do the first and third Mondays of each month. I have the women's support group, which I lead. And then there is the men's support group, the second and fourth Monday of the month. All of these are 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And if there's a fifth Monday, the group's co-ed, and I bring somebody in to share their experience and answer whatever questions people may have. I've been given some opportunities to speak. We have the STARS workshop where I'll be responsible for the sexual health portion with Dr. Evelyn Dacker. That's happening in Portland, Oregon on March 7th. If you're interested, hit me up and know. I will be doing some traveling while I'm out there on the West Coast tonight as well. So I'm going to go visit some friends and make some time to do some things that I really want to do. And it'll be March, so it should be warming up. I want to say it's been a lot of snow out here on the East Coast and in Brooklyn. So I'm looking forward to escaping from some of that. I have the National Sex Ed Conference, which is actually next week. I present on the 25th, just talking about how we can minimize herpes stigma. It's kind of my thing. I go to these presentations now, and I actually made not a PowerPoint, but I made it in Canva. So I got slides now. I'm looking real professional. I got some feedback from presenting at Coppin State University last year. Shout out to the Title IX coordinator there. I don't know how people feel about me using names. So I can just say that. If you want to go find her, good luck. Go ahead, go for it. But yeah, she gave me some really good feedback, and some of that feedback was to make a presentation, and it landed really, really well. Last year, the first half of the year, I said this a few times, but the first half of 2025 was not kind to me, and I just passed the 1 year mark of where my relationship, ended, verbally. To say, because it's still like the time period where you think somebody might be getting back together or whatever. So I had some tough feelings coming up for myself over that week. What was today? Yeah, it was a little bit about a week and a half ago that I was hitting the anniversary, and during that time, like, I recognized some high emotionally intense and charged feelings, and I tried to set that aside from the other things that I had, but I recognized that was still something that had affected me, and yeah, I did some work around that for myself, and ultimately came to the realization that people were wrong about me. I can't listen to what other people say about me, because I let myself be very impressionable, in the sense that I let both my ex and my therapist tell me I was something I'm not. They both were like, "Yeah, you're polyamorous." I'm like, no, that doesn't fit. And then in accepting that identity and that label for myself, I think that I started to act in a way that I believe to be polyamorous, but also coming out of the relationship where you think you can be with somebody for the rest of your life, right? Like, I think that maybe there's a cord cutting type thing that needs to happen, where there's also time to recalibrate yourself. Otherwise, what will happen is what happened to me, where anybody who came into the picture immediately after, like, not just the breakup, but like the time that I thought was enough time before I started dating anybody. I gave myself 3 months of grieving from the time that the relationship ended before I saw anybody else. And then I was still finding myself treating people the same way, like treating people like I'm in a relationship, and not doing a lot of the things that people do when they're dating someone or when they're getting to know somebody new. And it took me until literally mid-January to realize, oh, that's what I'm still doing. And when I had that realization, I started to do some research. I reached out to a relationship coach. Shout out to Kat. She's a polyamorous dating coach. And I was like, hey, I don't think I'm polyamorous. I really don't believe that's the case. And so we got into it. Like, she had some graphs for me. She had some language for me. And one of the things that she pointed out to me was that something worth looking into and working on is appropriate distances with people, between like your immediate circle, and then you've got like your communities, your friends, friend groups, family, and then further outside of that, like people that you associate with. Or this is where you would have like casual relationships. And I've been looking at atoms I had to bring it up. And that makes sense because there's the nucleus of the atom, where this is where your core, closest values, beliefs are. And then the second shell, which is where like that's more community, friends, and whatnot. I believe this is where like your consistent behaviors exist. And then shell three is like the testing ground for new things, new people, and how you engage with the world and the reality reflected around you. From that's based off of your inner world. Like your outer world is reflective of your inner world. So looking from upward, we're looking at the third shell of an atom as a reality, real world picture of what's happening in your internal world. So if there's inconsistencies between your nucleus, which is your behaviors, and then your beliefs and your identity, then the 3D world will show you a picture that you're kind of like, wait a minute, that's weird, that's inconsistent. And that's been the case for me over some time. And I couldn't speak to it because I know at the time, like coming out of that relationship, I was on the rebound for a minute. And so any relationship that would have come to fruition through that, there was not a grounded version of me that was sustainably going to be in any of those kind of connections or relationships. And I ended up seeing people who do also identify as polyamorous. And when I came to the realization that maybe that's not me, I think that what I did was appropriately and quickly give that information, especially because I know that that kind of thing is important to people. Like some conversations that we've had is like, as a polyamorous person, you should date monogamous people, or they only date non-monogamous people, or only date polyamorous people. So, and having these conversations for me, it was like a real celebratory thing to like have some clarity around my identity, recognizing who I am, what makes me up, who I'm not, and where these inconsistencies are for me. And when I presented those to the people around me, I don't know if it was in my presentation, my timing, or what, but I got a lot of like, not what I expected. Let's just say that. And I take responsibility for, I guess it can feel like maybe using people. That's the closest thing. Like there was guilt initially because first off, I didn't expect for the reactions that I got to be the reactions that I got. But in hindsight and in talking to people, what ended up happening was I went from my relationship thinking that I had enough time to, be single or like be by myself and with what was happening for me, and entering into these relationships under the identity of polyamorous. And that means different things to different people. But I adopted this label that didn't align with me, and I only did it because this is what other people told me, credible people, right? Someone that I thought I was spending the rest of my life with as a partner, and then my therapist who I've been working with for 5 years, right? So entering the world of dating now, being like, hey, I'm polyamorous. There were people who, that became close, and I want to say like grounded me, like really grounded me, because I was not okay. I can use the word depressed in this context because, and like I'm not somebody who believes in attaching the identity to these things that aren't identifiers, right? You can be depressed and identify in that way, or you can have depression or have had depression, right? So the more accurate articulation of this is that I had depression, and it looked very different than what I think it can look like for a lot of other people. And that depression didn't start when the breakup happened in February. It didn't start when the reality of, all right, this relationship's over, like that's it. It didn't start at the point of realizing, okay, like I'm happy and I'm able to be myself now. It was almost like little itty bitty. It was like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Because even at that time, my great grandmother went to the hospital. My college roommate had passed away. I shortly after, like, my home was destroyed by a tornado, which ultimately ended up being a blessing for me in the long run. Uh, but these were things that were happening in my life that really fucking rocked my world and disoriented me. And I ain't even had time to process those things because the while I'm still trying to make sure to sustain this, right? Like this vehicle of my passion, purpose, and the thing that has, in fact, kept me grounded to some extent over the last 9 years now. And I I wasn't fit to manage it in the way that it has been managed over time, like throughout the years of it being consistently a podcast, a space where people can go and get herpes information, etc. And that was because I was all over the place. I was not grounded. I was very much like I didn't have a job. Technically, I wasn't working. I did work, but I I wasn't carrying that same momentum from something positive for positive people. And in fact, I also, previously I was really locked in and focused on the men's emotional wellness work through Self, which was a nonprofit that I had started, while in my previous relationship. And I was ready to abandon this shit. I was ready to leave something positive alone, right? And do that fully. And things were working out to where it could have happened, but it didn't work out. And I had gotten to a point where I realized I was spread thin and I had to make some decisions. And in making those decisions, again, all of this stuff happening in the background, the undercurrent of things, I ended up, losing that relationship. I lost, what self was. I lost my identity, and yeah, I lost the community as well. Like in hindsight, you know, I recognize that the sex education space is primarily not all the way straight women, at least. And I'm one of very few heterosexual men that are in this space. And the identity aspect of it, I think, it came down to at the end of the day, I'm a straight man. So, like, if somebody got to get elbowed out of the space, you know, between, selecting from two people who I guess, like, I don't know what the narrative is, but if there was any issues with Courtney, it's like a side was chosen. And so now, having lost that community too, there was so much of a loss of identity, despite having learned so much from it. And I would forever be grateful for the opportunities that came. Like, I'm a co-author in a book. I get to put that I presented at various conferences on my resume. I have the experience and language of being able to be a much more supportive person and resource to populations of people that I otherwise would never have had exposure to. And also had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun connecting with people. Like, had some great relationships and sexual experiences, as career opportunities. So yeah, there was a lot of loss. There was a lot of grief, and grief is not linear. That's one of the things Antonio said. That's one of my yoga therapy instructors. Um, and all the while still trying to, like, I still had things that I had to do, but I could only do what was right in front of me at the time. And I look up now and it feels like I'm just waking up from that fucking nightmare of an experience. Mind you, stuff still had to happen. Like, I got to New York and I think I was just on autopilot. I was on autopilot from July, probably through August, September. And that's where I think things started to really ramp up for me. And the reality of, yo, Courtney, you doing this shit. I remember in 2023, I said to myself, I was like, I'm moving to New York. Moved to New York. I was coming out here for things with the health departments and documentary showing and screening. And there was there were a handful of things that were happening out here, and I was like, damn, if I come out here and like just put this here, what could happen? And I'm experiencing that, and it doesn't look nearly as clear as I anticipated when I was making the decision prior, but it looks the way that it has to look. I'm now in a place where uh, being forced into like not having that support, that community, that foundation. I got to build my own. Like I lost people. I lost people as a result of that breakup. And you know, one thing that I'll say that I learned, from that relationship ending is like she used to say to me, everybody ain't your friend. And tying into my relationship coaching call, where she was like, hey, you need to appropriately place people. I was like, damn, that statement makes a lot more sense now. So it is interesting to be able to receive the same kind of information from a place of having had experiences and then developed a little bit more maturity now, and having been away from a place that, yeah, a lot of my identity was interconnected with that space. And I used to believe that I needed to have like my own separate identity from something positive people. Because it felt like that was making up who I am. But the reality is like it's the other way around. Like who I am, like something positive is an extension of Courtney. And I was letting people get into my head about, Courtney being an extension of something positive for positive people. That ain't the case. And as I, go back to just everything that was going on at that time. Yeah, like I looked up and was just in relationships after being so ungrounded, finally receiving some type of grounding to be able to settle myself into this newfound space that I'm in, being in New York, being a full-time employee of my own nonprofit organization now, and managing all of that and navigating that in the growth, like the growth that has happened since sitting my ass down in a place that aligns, in an environment that aligns with my identity. I'm fucking different. Like I'm adjacent to a lot of spaces, and there is no, people say the herpes community. Like the herpes community is like it's like if you have a lighter and you're flickering the lighter and it's just not catching flame. Whereas you have the sex positive community that, you light that, what it is. There's a fire there, kink community, fire there, rope, LGBT, black men, right? You have all of these things that have a long lasting fire, right? Whereas for me, with the herpes community, it's just like a constant flickering, right? Maybe people show up to things wrong. Maybe people sign up and show up to things that are in person. Maybe people, engage, and maybe people want to do the advocacy thing. And I feel like I was part of a fire, especially in the sex education space, until, recent events. And so even in that, I felt the same way about polyamory. I felt the same way about like even being an ally to the LGBT community, even with like ropes, and more recently, like I'm getting into dance classes. I've been going to Zoom classes for about 6 months now and getting a lot more comfortable with that. Like it feels that everything that I'm making efforts to involve myself with, like it just doesn't catch. And I was listening to, or I was scrolling Instagram, and Shan Boudreaux did a podcast with I think one of Nick Cannon's wives or ex-wives, but she made a comment. She was like, Nick isn't polyamorous. She was like, he always says to label me is to disable me. I felt that shit in my soul. And I was like, damn, I'm not and even I've been hanging out with people who are in like the Burning Man community as well, which I always have, but I never felt like a burner myself. And it was like, you're my buzz. I was like, I can't say that. Like I'm adjacent to y'all. Like I enjoy, hanging out with y'all, doing what it is that we do. Like it's real cool. Like I enjoy experiencing this, but that's y'all culture. And having gotten to this point, like I realized that my own identity, own culture, there's this a very interesting intersection of adjacencies that have combine to make me who I feel like I am. And I can't put that in the language. Like, I can't put into language, these are my identifiers. This is what I believe in. This is what I stand for. Like, I believe that through the thing that aligns for me, like taking something positive for positive people, like this as an extension of me, it goes beyond supporting people living with herpes. It goes beyond the mental health piece. It goes beyond the yoga. Like, this in itself is a literal example of taking the negativity of a herpes diagnosis and creating something with that. Like, I've said this in past episodes, positive definition is it means presence. The word negative just means absent, like, or infinite potential, right? Like, it's a negative charge, but positivity and negativity are drawn to each other, right? These two forces, they attract, but they never completely merge. So these, to me, are two complementary forces to each other that, when in safe proximity, like, there's the opportunity to do something with them both. And this is a perfect example of what happens when you take negative and positive and you apply your consciousness, your awareness, the power of choice to put them in like a dance. So the way that negativity works is like negativity represents motion, it's constantly moving, and positivity represents stillness. And it's like a song, it's like a constant hum that electrons are, or negativity is drawn to. And it's when we bring our awareness to this music, think about like a constant and we got that as the proton, which is still, the neutron, or the electron, which is constantly in motion, and the neutron, which is a neutral force, that's us, our power of choice and where we put our awareness. It's almost like we give a rhythm to that. So if the proton's going and we come in and we muffle that or amplify it, so we change it to a right? The electrons, which are constantly in motion, negativity, will align in an orbit that naturally is created by the forces of nature that I will not go all the way into, but I've been reading up on this shit. And it's been existing in that way, where I am the neutron force that has been focusing more on stillness. Like, my mantra has become do nothing. And the things that are in motion to the rhythm of that stillness orbit in the way that, like, atoms have electrons in their orbit, right? And that's been the way that I've been living my life and getting myself out of that depressed state that I was in, and being able to align myself in an environment that nurtures my nature. And that'll be something that y'all will probably hear me say a lot more later down the road. But the ultimate goal here is that what something positive for positive people does is it nurtures my nature as an extension of who I am. Me being able to infinitely pour myself, my presence, my resources, time, money, energy, attention, all of that into this space. It's like giving a rhythm to that constant hum of positivity, of stillness, right? Napoleon Hill, in the book Outwitting the Devil, in the book, the devil describes himself as all negative energy, or the negative portion of the atom, which is the electron. So that's the devil, and God being the positive force, positivity, the proton. And as the neutral force, neutron, we stabilize the proton and basically give rhythm to the song that it's singing, because it can't move. Like, the proton can't move, but the electrons can. And so they get into orbit, and it's like a dance is happening. Like, I'm a DJ of my life. And the awareness and attention that I give to the positive makes the negative fall in line. That aligns, because that's infinite potential for energy expression. When I was going through everything that I was going through, my negative force was not singing the song. It wasn't DJing. It left the turntable and was just dancing with it. everything out of whack and all over the place. And that's where disorder and chaos came from, because it's almost like there's a blind relationship between positivity and negativity, that when the neutron is able to stabilize the atom and we bring our awareness to the positive and we're present, right? It's almost like the nucleus solidifies and those orbits become real for the negative energy to be able to orbit. And the negative energy becomes a visual expression of that positive energy that otherwise wouldn't be able to directly engage with each other. So it's like there are two different planes of existence, the positive energy and then the negative energy, and that's a neutral force. We create a bridge for those two to interact in a way that allows for the proton to do what it does, which is to be powerful and express, and for the electrons to do what they do, which is constantly move, but to give them purpose in the motion. And that's been my saving grace. I ain't gonna sit up here and say like I wasn't suicidal or anything like that, but I was lost, I was stuck, I was stagnant. And the more that I started to look into that relationship of atoms, like I started to see that there's a star metaphor in that. Like what stars do is the same thing that I'm describing for atoms, and the same thing for people. For me, as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, everything else falls into place. And sometimes that looks like doing nothing and just taking in aligned action and choosing what it is that I engage with and not chasing. And in that, I find myself like experiencing a lot more peace, a lot more pleasure, a lot more contentment, and a lot more just rhythm. Like there's a rhythm to life that I think that I found. And I learned what the purpose of this shit is for myself. This may not be true for you, so I don't want to project my shit onto you. But if you look at the atom's purpose, like it's to achieve maximum evolution with minimal waste. So minimal effort, maximum potential is reached, and there's an evolution process that occurs, right? Like you take in what's useful, you get rid of what's not useful. And our engagements with people, things, opportunities, challenges, obstacles, we evolve from those things and our identities change. We grow and develop and evolve. And that's where I find myself now, having looked up and been like, damn, I've been wearing these layers and identities and shit that actually, I guess, doesn't serve me anymore, doesn't align. And there's still like a piece of me that wants to repay my debt. Like the universe is big on balance. So I'm a firm believer in karma. And it feels like sometimes the decisions that I make are ones that come from a place of like wanting to be ahead of the curve on karma. Like I want to proactively like put this out there and do the right thing, do what's good. But God, the universe, they don't reward what's right. They don't punish what's wrong. What it is about is alignment, right? You get rewarded for evolving with and not wasting energy. Like it can't be created or destroyed. You're giving it, you're putting in an environment, and what you do in that environment is what nature rewards in turn. So the environment of me getting herpes and, creating something like this from that is ultimately like my experience with what I'm saying here of taking the negative and turning it into a vehicle for something positive, like giving it an outlet. So it's more than that, as just a platform for people with herpes. It's literally an extension of me and how I engage with the world. Like I will take something negative and produce something positive. That shit don't work for people. So I can't save people. That's another lesson that I've learned as a result of 2025. And I think that not appropriately placing people has put me in consistent positions where, I view people as, people at the core of them. Like the nature of the thing is more important than the form thing. So the energy, the essence of the person, like I see that and want to be supportive in that, but also people are people. And you can't save everybody. You can't save nobody. All you can do is, offer presence, be there with them, and let them be who they are. And I'm learning just the importance of that authenticity, because when you are authentic, you do things that align. Your behaviors, your beliefs align, and the reality that is around you aligns too. And whenever there's any inconsistencies, you can approach those with curiosity and make whatever necessary adjustments that need to be made. And for me, I think that the last few sheddings of layers before I can really see this shit boom like I know it's supposed to is looking at where energy is inauthentically being wasted or leaking. I don't want to call it a waste, but where it's leaking. And I was doing that with trying to sustain and maintain these super long distance relationships with people that, I felt like I owe for being there for me at the time where I was down. I was fucking down. And yeah, it feels shitty, but also being nice is kind of what got me into this situation. Like listening to other people, not being like, hey, that don't feel right. I'm not gonna do that. And boundaries are another thing that came up as an issue in my last relationship. So she was right about some things, and some of those things have resurfaced even a year later. And on one hand, it's like, damn, have I really not changed? On the other hand, it's like, damn, yo, this is really who I am. And that in being able to present that, people be able to see me for who I am and take me as I am. But also to me, I have to live that shit and be forthcoming about hey, this is what's important to me. My work through something positive for positive people. If it's not this, if they cure herpes tomorrow, there will be something else that comes out of there will be something else that comes out of me as an extension. And I've been a very non-attached, not jealous person, but I give a fuck. I give a fuck. I care. And this is a thing that I care about. And I've let myself, get to a place where I've been with a person or with people, the people who were there for me, and my capacity to give to them was infinite because I wasn't doing this. I was having 70 support calls in a month. I wasn't having to do my yoga therapy class. I wasn't going to work and do the genital exam sometimes. I had that shit 3 days in 1 week, 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago, 3 days in 1 week. That is unheard of. I usually do 3 days a month. And prioritizing maintaining this self-sustainability, prioritizing making an effort to build community. And I was doing this shit backwards because to me, I wanted to just pick up where I left off and being in the kind of relationship that I thought that I had and I was working towards, because it was almost yes, we fucking beat the game, but let's get the side quests together. And the reality is that wasn't the case. And looking back now, I can see there have been people that I've seen who they wanted Future, but I gave them Drake. And what I mean by that is they just wanted something, a one-time thing, a casual hookup, and then I gave them Loverboy Courtney, who was in a relationship. So it was just the residuals of not having, not severed the ties, because that doesn't apply, but having to get out of that mode of this is how I engage with the person that I call partner. And this is also how I engage with the person I call friend. And this is how I engage with the person that I do work with. I believe in treating people, the way that I'm going to treat people. But what I've learned is that the discernment is important, right? Keep people, where they rightfully belong. And that's something that I've only just now learned too. You let people get closer as they earn the right to be closer. And don't just start people out with 100% trust. Like, and that's a hard thing for me because it's what I've done. Like that's who I have been in, a recent relationship, right? Like she told me, she's like, hey, we got to sit down. What are you doing? I was like, what you mean? Because to me, that was just my normal. And that normal, that shit don't work. That shit don't always work and apply to everybody. So I'm sharing this because people been asking me like, how you been? And now I'm at a good enough place to where this experience is something that I think highlights one of the points that I've made over the years is that this shit going on way bigger than I got herpes and I'm scared of rejection. I don't have to tell anybody because I'm scared of rejection. That's what you're scared of. I get it, right? We get newly diagnosed and our world turns upside down. We don't know what's what. But also, man, like that can be a reason, an excuse to not look at other things that could be more prevalent, more so impacting you. And in my case, like, yeah, the herpes wasn't an issue. Relationship, it wasn't an issue. College roommate passing, it wasn't an issue in moving, the tornado, it wasn't an issue in any of the relationships that I was in. But the real issue was for me, like what comes to mind again, like there's two things I want to speak to. One is I guess maybe self-sabotage in a way, but I can remember when I was like 12, 13 years old, my friend Nick, rest in peace, he actually passed away during the Joplin tornadoes, Joplin, Missouri tornadoes years ago. Like that's something that was heavy on me because it's like, I lost like my two best friends from childhood to a tornado. Like we had lost contact as we just got older and when we got to high school. When I found that out, I was like, damn. But I remember he was dating this girl and he was a year older, just like my big brother. And he had put me on her sister. And so we were talking, we dated, texted, and all that. And we finally got to meet, go to the movies, right? So we go to the movies, and she comes around the corner, I see her, and I just fucking take off running. I took off running. I don't know what it was, but I ran, right? And so that's one part of this that I want to share. Because the reason that I'm bringing that up is this is like the first time that I can really, gauge a relationship with women and that I've had in relationships with women. And another piece of that is that there was a distance, but then boom, we got too close in proximity. Like here you are, like tangible. I can see you, put my hands with you, touch you, hug you, and I fucking run. It was like, no, this is too close. And I had a recent experience with that as well. Like literally 2 days ago, 3 days ago, where we got too close, and I found a reason to be like, this ain't for me. This ain't for me. And there's something to be said for there being like a safety and proximity and distance too, because like a longer distance relationship, because 12-year-old me, I'm 3 times that age. I don't live not the 12-year-old, but up through the 24-year-old and now through the 36-year-old. And I still see how that manifests now in adulthood, where it's now not about, I guess it is still physical, but like in those short spurts of time, like the distance is good and yet not sustainable. But like the intensity, compact bit of time together is like, it's great, it's perfect. We part ways and get back to doing our own thing or whatever. And that's been something that has been safe for me, but also not sustainable, right? And the other component of this is as it relates to herpes. And I don't know if I'm trying to like force this in there, but I'm sharing this because the relationship piece of how I engage with women or have engaged with women partners relationships is still rooted in what it was that made me run, right? Like when you get too close to something that maybe it would have been a fit, right? Like I don't know, I was fucking 12, 13 years old. But to still have that same behavior as a 12, 13-year-old boy playing out at 37 years old now, uh, the distance becoming a safety is now like a barrier that I have to actively disrupt, because I don't want that to be the case. I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to sustain emotional connection, physical connection, and all that with long-term, long-distance relationships. And I see that, like, there's a way to do that, but you can't like bring somebody so close. And in my case, the phone calls every day, falling asleep on the phone at 12, 13 years old. I don't think we was text, we just talked to each other like all the time. And then like when it came down to, physical in person, and like now it's real, it was like, nope, I like the fantasy better. And that's a thing that I feel like has more weight to it than just being scared to tell somebody you got herpes, or what comes with that. And as an adult now, excuse me, and seeing myself like ready to end these relationships, and looking at it, the fact that like, okay, like polyamory never really was a fit for me. There was something else that was there that did fit. I think that parts of polyamory that were like being able to have that safety of a distance, and then maybe when things get too close or too intimate, and it now requires more of a sacrifice in order to sustain, bring in closeness. Perhaps that's what it is that made me feel like, hey, like I'm not doing this. Like it's not that I can't. It's just that it was sustainable for me when I didn't have anything else going on. Because at 12, 13 years old, that's also when I started playing football. And what I gave to football is synonymous to what I pour and give into something positive for positive people. And even at that time when I was pouring into football, like I couldn't keep people off me. Like I had legs on me. But they wanted from me when I gave to football. And it was when I gave them what I gave to football that started to suck. That started to be sacrificed. And I see a very direct parallel now, three 12-year cycles since then, that the thing that makes me attractive to potential partners is the passion, the sense of duty, commitment that I have to this. And what comes of this, or what's born out of something positive for positive people, flashing is the light that it emits, and the gravity that it holds. Like that shit becomes attractive. And I'm learning that in order for me to continue to sustain this kind of thing, like I gotta say no. Like I gotta be like, I can't give you this. I can't give you what I give to this. And the amount of, like I talked again, nurture your nature, right? This nurtures my nature. And I was presented shit last night with somebody that I was saying, a conversation about like, she was like, oh, so you treat everybody as good. She's like, I thought I was special. You just treat everybody like this. I was like, yeah, like why wouldn't I? Why not be kind to everybody, right? Like I don't think I mislead people. I think that I do a good job of communicating verbally. Hey, here's what's going on, here's what's happening, here's where I stand. What about you? Check in. In fact, like that's got me in trouble a few times. Like I say, sex positivity has fucked me up, because a lot of that shit is kind of like doing karate versus somebody who street fights, or somebody who has a gun. Let's say that, right? Doing karate doesn't work with people who do karate. If you run into somebody, you're trying to do a karate fight with somebody that got a gun on them, or a knife, weapon of any sort, all that karate shit go out the window. And it's been the same way for me, like navigating, going out to a club, for instance, right? Like I've been going out by myself. I've been trying to get comfortable with dancing. And like I went to a place that played like hip hop, R&B, Afro beats. And I'm watching interactions, and the shit that flies in the vanilla world in these spaces don't fly in the sex positivity. right? Like I'm watching dudes like grab one and be like, hey, come here, mom, let me talk to you. And they receptive as fuck to it. And I'm sitting there like, he about to get canceled. It's like, oh, I could never do this. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like this is how I grew up with this. So now like I have a balanced awareness of when that's okay, when that's not okay, and understanding like it's the environment has so much to do with, has so much more influence on things. And so me shifting into an environment where my nature is nurtured, like my real nature. I ain't talking about like the performative is not the right word. Uh, but people will talk about like performative man who can do the emotional intelligence shit. And like I think that I'm a genuine person. I think that I present from a place of where I'm at. And when I'm talking about things, like talking about them genuinely, like I'm using the language because I love being respectful. So it doesn't feel like I'm coming from a place of being performative. It feels like a place where it's like, how do you calibrate being adjacent to, queer culture, and then like having to go back into like the hip hop culture, which is like very counterintuitive to be someone who's in between those two, especially as a straight black man who grew up one way, and then as an adult, I'm learning how many things were wrong with this thing and how to like figure out how to integrate these two. So it's been a practice, man. It's been a practice of like navigating being wrong. Like it's so fucked up, y'all. Let me tell you this quick story, and I gotta get back to track. But I've been out a couple times where I had no idea somebody was flirting with me. In the world of sex positivity, I think that it's been so much easier because there's so much sexual openness where you will know if a person likes you. They might just directly tell you, like, hey, I'm trying to fuck. They might tell you, hey, like, what are you getting into? Like, I'm interested. Whereas, like, I'm out doing my little, I ain't got no crazy dance moves, right? Like, I'm just chilling, and like, you pick up on things. Like a part of me was like, hey, pay attention to this. And another part of me was like, it ain't no way that this girl that's been standing here for the last 30 minutes and inching closer to me is interested in me. This girl that like brushed up against me like 3 times, and I moved a little bit, like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, and then fucking smacks me in the face with her hair, and then I said something to her. I was like, damn, is she smelling all good like that? She's like, I don't know, it could be anybody. It's a lot of people in here. And I was like, oh, I told somebody that happened. She was like, and then what? I was like, she rejected me. Like, what you mean? She was like, Courtney, that is not what happened. Like, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm not in that space anymore. I'm in a different environment, and things like this have happened enough for me to be like, all right, some changes have to be made, like, because I'm in this environment. And this will be a whole nother conversation probably about how like sex positivity has fucked me up, but I don't mean that exclusively in a way that now I don't know how to flirt in the real world. That's not what I'm saying. But there have been conversations that I've had with people that they're kind of like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, you don't talk like that. Whole nother thing. But tying this back to the original point of just coming to the realization that I'm not polyamorous. Like, a lot of what I do through something positive, like I work with a lot of people, mostly women, and I remember things like that. The way that I run this, the way that I'm on top of shit, the way I'm committed, the way I'm passionate, the way people feel, the way people talk about it, that's been a threat in past relationships. And I've allowed myself to be like, well, you're more important than this thing, but not really giving people the opportunity to prove their importance, or like prove that, you are more important than this. This don't mean anything compared to you. And I've not given myself the grace of, or being real with myself, right? Like being real with myself about the fact that this is my calling, my purpose, right? People give me props and shit all the time for what I do, but I don't think people really understand like the sacrifices that have to come with this. And one of those sacrifices is coming from a place of me needing to know how to tell motherfuckers no. Like, hey, you're not going to take me away from this. And I feel like even with that, like I'm inviting the challenge. Somebody be like, bet, hold my beer. I'm about to get his attention. Because I watched Demon Slayer, the anime, And there was during the Swordsmith Village arc where the dude came out the jar and he was like whipping this swordsmith who was like concentrated, making his sword. He didn't want to kill him. He just wanted him to pay attention to him. He was like, no, I'm gonna break your concentration. But he never broke his concentration, never broke his concentration. And that's kind of metaphorically what I was doing prior to entering any relationship, really, is like being on my shit. And then the minute, you break concentration, like that's where shit falls apart. It's like, I got you. All right, that's all I want. I just want to break your concentration. Peace out. See you. And that's that's the experience. And as long as I've been taking care of this, as long as I've been on top of, doing what it is that I know I'm supposed to be doing, I ain't had that. And it's been consistent enough, at least since August, September, for the last 6 months, where I can look at it and go, you know what, this is exactly right. And I think that there's been pressure from me to, again, like give what I give to other people. And that has helped with the calibration process of what my relationship capacity is. Because I mean, low key, Ramadan starts tomorrow. I ain't Muslim, but I met somebody who is Muslim, and we were having a conversation. Like, well, what does that consist of? Like, what does Ramadan consist of? And she was talking about like some of the things that you give up and some of the ways that you gotta be. And I wanted to see if I can do it. So yesterday, I've decided I was like, all right, I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna do any. What was it? It's no drinking or eating. Went from sun up to sundown. No pork, no alcohol, and then no sex. Now the no sex thing, I think I'm gonna see if I can do it for like 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see if I can do that. But everything else I think I can do. So I'm trying that out. I'm on day 2 of this, and it feels like people say, "Oh, well, what do you want in return?" Like, you should ask for something. I don't need anything. And I think that I like the sustainability of not needing anything. And that's another thing that's gotten me in trouble with people, because it's like, okay, now I'm self-sustainable. I don't need you, but I have a greater capacity, a greater quality of capacity to be able to give. And it's just not in the way that people want to receive me. So you telling me this whole time, this microphone ain't been on? What in the world? Wow. Oh my God. So this shit just ain't been on at all? Oh, God. Oh my God. We gonna see what happens from here. I should sound way different and way better now. So I just been talking at the laptop. I hope it's picked up everything. Um I gotta bring this to a close now. What in the hell? That's embarrassing. All right, so I will not take breaks from podcasting again. We just gonna do this until I stop. Wow, that just ruined my whole train of thought. So closing this out, I guess, like at this point, now that I'm grounded, now that I'm self-sustainable, I have a greater quality of a give in which I can offer to the world. Like, it's not just individual partners, but like I recognize that the frequency, the quantity is a thing that I don't have. I don't have like the quantity, but the quality is tremendous. And I think that sustaining this rhythm is going to be what draws in like aligned, not just opportunities, people, friendships, connections, but also relationships, or whatever relationship, whatever it ends up turning into. Like, I'm not attached to any particular outcome. Like, I'm thinking now what's important to me is output over outcome. And me prior to 6 months ago was very much like outcome driven. Like, this is what I want, this is what I have, bet, like, now let's maximize this. But I've developed a lot of patience. I've cultivated a lot more consistency and more will, I want to say. And
I'm in a much better place. I'm much more suited to be able to run something positive for positive people. I'm much more suited to be able to facilitate these support groups, support calls, and I have like the bandwidth and the capacity because I had to plug some energy leaks, right? Like the intentionality. One more thing that came up from my breakup, like looking at what it means to be intentional and being able to give energy to where it's reciprocated, like plugging energy into where it's reciprocated. I look at how stars function, and I've been like, again, studying that in quantum physics. And I've been doing a lot of like, I was in a period of taking after my relationship ended, after being in a place of like just giving, like forceful giving in a sense, versus sitting like the sun does in our solar system, where all it does is turn hydrogen to helium. All of the planets orient themselves to the sun's consistency and rhythm. And the minute that the sun tries to like help somebody see better by shining more bright or getting closer to create more warmth, you fuck up the whole solar system. Like the planets get out of whack, the ecosystems that and everything that's orbited to your rhythm get completely fucked up. So I look at the solar system the same way I do the nervous system, and it's a matter of me continuing to do this. And I can't compromise this. I can't make sacrifices from this. And I'm clear on that now. So it's my little accountability episode to not let that kind of shit happen again. And yeah, I welcome everybody who's gonna be like, oh, hold my beer, watch this. Let me try this out. The whatever his name was from Demon Slayer, who did like the whipping of the dude that was the swordsmith that was making the sword. I welcome that shit because now, I know what I'm capable of, and I've seen what happens when I don't do this. So this shall continue to be done, and I look forward to whatever content comes out of this moving forward. But yeah, the way Instagram ain't been fucking with me lately, and the way that I've had to like play around with that, it's not worth the time anymore. So people ain't getting the announcements. Like now it's just a matter of getting people to the website. And this is one of the ways that we're going to do it. So bandwidth opened up, bandwidth closing back up, and I'm able to play around with the space that I have between like my maximum efficiency versus my maximum capacity. All right. Till next time, stay present. That concludes this episode of Something Positive for Positive People. Please like, rate, review, share, subscribe to shit. Email me. Like if excuse me, over the last however long it's been, like I think that I've had more people on the support calls be like, oh yeah, like I found this website. Like I don't even know if the podcast is useful, but at this point it's just like a media tool to put out there, hey, this is what we're doing. And it feels, again, aligned for me to be able to come back into it now. All right. So thanks for listening. Thanks for hearing me. Thank you for letting this be a space for accountability, as well as me being able to be consistent to what it is that I'm doing. I think that the more open and transparent I am about my own life, my own experiences, and like now it ain't like I'm putting people out there or anything, but I think it's good for me to be able to do this and do this by myself and do this in a way that, you know, I bring people in who align on a project basis or whatever. But I can't let myself do what's happened in the past. And I feel like a much more firm sense of conviction. And like I can do this shit. Like there's infinite capacity of energy here. And I look forward to being able to continue to serve, continue to have the support calls and the support groups and the events, which we got one March 21st in New York City. If you're in New York City, the event itself will be in Brooklyn. It's a full day of support. So I'm pumping this out in the newsletter now. And yeah, I feel like I keep wanting to say more stuff, especially because my mic was tripping. I hope that this sounds all right, but I'm going to play it for myself and see what it sounds like, because I got the space heater on right next to the computer, and I know it's probably been a constant hum in the background. So fudge.